Hello everybody, Elias5891 rolled the wrong numbers on the dice today, so filling in, it's Timwee with another KTANE module tutorial. Today I would like to go over the pattern cube module with you. This is a module that has stumped quite a lot of KTANers, but today I am going to show you how you can solve this module using only Notepad. No folding of paper, no cutting, no physical objects. So, let's see what this is all about. Let's dive right in. So, first I'm going to explain what this module is about and what the puzzle is about, what the module is asking you to do. And to do that, we need to take a look at a cube. A cube can be cut open in such a way that you can unfold the edges in such a way that everything becomes flat and you can lay it flat on the table. So in this example, you get a structure that looks a bit like a T-shape or a cross shape, and all 6 faces of the cube are visible. But that is not the only way that you can cut it open. You could cut it open a different way. You can fold multiple faces at once, and in this example, you end up with a sort of S shape, which again shows all 6 faces of the cube, but in a different orientation. Now you've seen the screenshot of the module, so you know that this module doesn't deal with colors on the cube, it deals with symbols. So let's put some symbols on the cube and let's do the same unfolding that I did last time. As you can see, I can unfold this and see all of the symbols in this T-shape that we had before. Let's take a quick copy of that. And now let's take a look at the other unfolding that I showed you, the one that resulted in an S shape. Now this looks pretty similar, and you can see how the same symbols are still there. But if we look at these side by side, look at the 3 arrow symbol, you see that that one is now upside down. And look at the T-shapes, these are 90 degrees rotated. So clearly, even though these 2 representations represent the exact same cube, the exact orientation of the symbols depends on the exact way in which the cubes were unfolded. Now let's take a look at the manual. I've inserted a little screenshot here of one example module. In this module we can see 6 different symbols. So the first thing that the expert will need to do in this module is to find 2 graphics, one from the top half and one from the bottom half, which between them contain all 6 of the symbols on the module. So let's go through these symbols in order. The first one is the lollipop. That one's here. The second one is the funnel. Now there is a funnel up here and there is a funnel down here. We'll get to that in a second. Now next we have the double arrow, which can also be found down here. We have the ring with a diamond ring, I guess. We have an L shape, and then we have the triangle. Now you will notice that I've marked 5 symbols down here and only 1 up here. Since we already have the 3 symbols from the left part of this, these are the symbols that occur only in the second group. So these are the 2 that we need to use up here. In fact, I'm going to mark these 2. Alright, now we can find the 2 cubes that have those symbols. Up here, that would be this cube, and down here, that would be this cube. Now if I take my cube and unfold it into the same shape that is shown on the module, we can see that one of the symbols provided on the module is already inserted into this unfolding of the cube. It is on the right side, and it is a triangle pointing to the right. So let's put that there. And now, let's put the cube back together. This is what it looks like. Looking at the manual, we can see that the cube that we've highlighted here has the triangle in the correct place and in the correct orientation. So we can immediately fill in the other 2 shapes. They clearly must go in those places. We have the funnel on the top and the double arrow on the left. Now let's unfold this cube again, and we can see where the 3 symbols go. Now there is another face on the module which is marked in red. It is the one in the bottom left corner of this T-shape arrangement. Now the symbols provided on the left side of the module also have a symbol marked in red. That seems to suggest that that symbol goes on that face. So let's put that symbol here, but we don't know what the correct orientation is just yet. It could be rotated any way round. Now, if we fold the cube back together, That face is now on the back of the cube. So let's turn that cube around. It is important to notice at this point that the cube could be oriented in 3 different ways, still showing those exact same 3 faces that you see now. In this orientation, the diamond ring is on the top face, but in the manual, in the cube that we've selected here, you can see that it is on the left face. So the cube could be oriented this way, in which case it would be on the front face, or this way. This is the orientation that we want, where the diamond ring is on the left. But now we notice that the diamond ring here has the diamond on the right. So we actually got the orientation wrong, but now we can fix it, and we can also fill in the other 2 symbols. We can put the lollipop here and the L shape here in such a way that they have the same shape and orientation as they do in the manual. Now if we unfold this cube, we now have the complete diagram of all 6 symbols in the correct orientation that we need to solve the module. So at this point, the diffuser would have to select the symbols, rotate them to the correct orientation, and then place them in the net, and that would solve the module. Now, how do you do this as an expert? You don't have a cube in front of you that you can just fill with symbols and rotate like this. Well, let's dig in how to actually think about this kind of unfolding in a way that we can do on the manual. For the purpose of this tutorial, I've created a little demonstration here. The cube that we were concerned about was this one here. Let's zoom in a little. Now, how could we unfold this cube? Well, this isn't really a full cube, is it? It's only half of a cube. You can only see 3 of the faces. And you can also see 3 of the edges between those faces. So you could cut this open along this edge, for example, and it would look like this. Alternatively, you could cut it open on this edge, and it would look like this. And finally, you can cut it open on the bottom edge, and it would look like this. Now, each 3 of these is a possibility of one way that the faces could be arranged in the net displayed on the module. So looking at the 3 options here and the net displayed on the module, it's quite easy to see which one of them fits exactly into the net. It is, of course, this one. As you can see, the symbol has the correct orientation, and the other 2 faces fit into frames perfectly. That leaves 3 faces that we need to fill with the 3 faces from the other cube in the manual. The other cube from the manual that we were concerned with is this one, and as before, there are 3 different ways of unfolding this by cutting open along each of the 3 possible edges. But now, looking once again at our diagram, we notice there is no way to fit any of these into those 3 cells, because those 3 cells aren't in an L shape. Even if I were to rotate one of these, which I suppose I can do, I would still not be able to fit all 3 of the shapes into those cells. So what gives? How do we fix that? Well, let's take another closer look at exactly how this unraveling of the cube compares to the other unravelings. What really is the difference between this one and this one? We can see the difference if we just switch directly between those. Look at that. All that's really happening is that one of the faces is moving to the side and rotating 90 degrees. The other orientation is just the same. This face just moves up and it rotates 90 degrees. Of course, you can also rotate both of these together, just as long as they are adjacent and connected. We can use this trick to our advantage. So imagine hypothetically I were to move this shape to here. I can now separate off this first face and rotate it in the same way that we've shown before. I could rotate it upwards, as we've seen, but since it is part of the larger net containing the entire cube, I can also move it down. I can take it to here. Now that's not quite where we want it. We want it one further down. So why don't we just do the same thing twice, and then after a second rotation, we will now see the symbol in the right place, and this is the orientation that it needs to have. So this is our first trick. It is this sort of 90 degrees rotation that you can perform to move squares to the places that they need to be and deduce the correct orientation. The second trick is much simpler. The second trick involves whenever you have four faces all in a line. If you think about the cube, the four faces just go all around the cube. So we can literally just put this face on the other side, because the cycle of those four faces would still be the same. They basically wrap around. And now we have placed all of the faces in the right places with the correct orientation. Now, just to rehash that strategy, I'm going to try this again in Paint. This time with a live module, which you can see on the screen here. I've brought up the manual for the correct rule seed. Let's see what the symbols are that are on this module. Well, we have the lollipop symbol, which is up here. We have the KTANE module. We have the rocket, which is down here. We have this double square. And we have the diamond on a stand. And within the net, we have this trash can symbol. So that means we have three symbols down here, so we're going to put the diamond on the stand here, and these are the two symbols that we want. So the cube that we're looking for in the top group is this one, and the one that we're looking for in the bottom group is this one. Now, since this one has the symbol that is already given on the module, let's concentrate on this. So, looking at the cube that we can see in the manual here, I'm going to unfold this by cutting open this edge. It doesn't really matter at this point, because when we use our trick, we can move the faces around any way we want. So when I open it up on this edge, what I get is I get an upside down trash can, something like this. And then I get the square underneath that with the filled in square in the bottom right. So let's fill that in. And then to the right of that, we have this rocket with the fumes on the top right. Now obviously the trash can given on the module is facing to the right. So I guess the first thing that I want to do is actually rotate this 90 degrees so that I can then place it in the right place. So we've got our trash can in the right place. Now let's use our two little tricks. The first trick is that the face that has the rocket on it can be rotated 90 degrees and moved to the left, like this. Okay? So that is a 90 degrees rotation. And then we can do another one. And then finally, we can do a third one. And now the rocket is in a place where it can be. And in fact, this is the final resting place. As for the other symbol, we're going to use the trick that I mentioned earlier. We have 4 squares in a row, so we can treat them as if they were wrapping around. So I can safely just move that square to here, which is simply on the other side of that run of 4s, and then I can do our rotation trick by simply moving it about this vertex 90 degrees up. And this way our first two symbols are already in the correct place. Let's put this into the module to see if I'm right. So firstly, in the top left, we have the square, the double square, where the filled in square is in the bottom right. So we rotate this in such a way and then put that in here. The module accepts that as input. That means that it was correct. Now for the rocket goes southwest and it goes in this square. And that was also correct. So now let's move on to the other cube in the manual, which is this one here, the one that has a KTANE module, a diamond on a stand, and a lollipop on it. I can unfold this cube by cutting open the front edge. So then we will have the lollipop on the right, with the stem pointing to the right. And then above that, we will have the diamond on a stand, this time with the stand above, like on top. And then to the left of that, the KTANE module will have the status light in the bottom right, like this. Now let's see how we can fit this into our module. Well, I can easily just fit 2 of them in, and then the lollipop, which is a little bit out of place here, but there we go. So this lollipop I can easily move by just rotating about this vertex 90 degrees over to here. So I claim that the lollipop needs to have the stem pointing up. Let's try that out. That seems to be correct. The diamond with the stand has the stand on top. And finally, the KTANE module has the status light in the bottom right. And that's a solved module. And now I'm going to play another module, but this time not using Paint at all. I'm going to try and do it all in Notepad++, and hopefully you can follow my steps. Okay, so here we have another example module. This time we're using rule sheet 7. And the first thing that the diffuser should do to the expert is to read out the shape of the net. In other words, imagine that this was placed in a 4x3 grid, right? Then this would be alpha 2, alpha 3. So this is what the diffuser should do, and the expert should write down the shape of this net. So let's do that. So as a diffuser, I would say alpha 2, alpha 3, Bravo 2, Charlie 1, Charlie 2, and then Delta 1. And then the diffuser would have to say which one of these has a symbol pre-filled, and that would be this one. So I'm just going to say exclamation points for a symbol that is already filled. And that symbol is, well, this is the symbol for Uranus, so I'm going to call it that, with the circle pointing up. The red square is the one at Charlie 1. So we're going to mark that with question marks, because we don't know what orientation it is. But we do know what goes there. It's the Leo symbol. Right? If I rotate it this way, you can see that this is the astrological symbol for Leo. And by the way, this is Aries. So the other symbols are star, Aries, T, and some kind of weird car. So let's take a look at the manual. In group 1, we have Leo, the T, and the Aries, and also the weird car. I'm going to mark that down here because I have a suspicion that the star and the Uranus, there we go, this is what it is. Okay, so in group 1, we want to find which of these cubes has the ram's horn, the T, and the Leo. Well, it turns out it's this one. Secondly, in the bottom group, we want to find a cube that has a star, a Uranus, and this weird car, and it turns out that's this one. Okay, so which one of these has the already pre-filled shape? Well, that's the Uranus, so that would be this cube. So we're going to use this cube first. We already know that the Uranus has the circle pointing up, so I'm right now tilting my head in such a way that the circle here points up, and then I check what is below it. Well, what is below it is a star with the tip pointing down. So here I'm going to say this is a star, so I'm just going to call that S, with the tip pointing down. Alright, now the car is to the left of this, but we don't have a square here, so how do we deal with that? Well, once again, if we put the car here, then we have 4 faces in a row, so I am allowed to just put that car here instead, and now I can rotate it upwards. Now in the representation here, because we were looking left of the Uranus symbol with the circle up, the car is actually oriented normal, but in order to move this up to here, we need to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, which means that the top of the car is now pointing to the left. Alright, that's this cube done. Now let's take a look at the other one. Well, we know that the Leo needs to go here, and I can already see that this is going to be easy, because the 3 faces that we still need to fill are all in this sort of L shape, so all I need to do is just cut this open along this edge, and then everything already falls into place. So Leo here will be facing to the right, so the top of the symbol is facing to the right. So I'm going to say that's L. And then Aries well, actually, let's do the T first. I don't even need to say that T is a T. So the T is underneath the Leo pointing to the right, so that T is right side up. So that is just T normal. And then to the left of that, we have the Aries, and that one is upside down, so I'm just going to mark that with a down arrow. And there we go, and then C is the car. And now we have the solution, and we can read it out to the diffuser. So diffuser, please rotate the Leo symbol in such a way that the top of the symbol faces right. My apologies, I pressed the square, I did not mean to do that. Alright, so we rotate this to the right, and then place it in Charlie 1. Alpha Bravo Charlie 1. That should be correct. Next, let's put the car with the top facing left, so that would be like this, in Delta 1. Then we move on to Bravo 2. We want Aries upside down, so we do that. And then the next one would be the T symbol, right side up. And finally we have the star upside down, which is already the case, and the module is solved. And here we are again, another module, another rule seed. So, as before, we start by reading out the shape of the net to the expert. So we have Alpha 1, then we have Bravo 1, Bravo 2, Bravo 3, and then Charlie 2 and Delta 2. Okay, then we read out the symbols. We have this sort of weird zigzag shape. We have a circle, we have a gravestone, we have the funny car that we had last time, we have a lightning bolt, and then we have a square with a square cutout. I'm going to give each of these names so that we can refer to them in the net. Let's use that. And then the diffuser will tell us that Bravo 2 already has the square and a square in it, so we're going to put a Q there, and it has the cutout in the bottom right. And then the Bravo 3 square is red, and that one would have to contain the zigzag. Alright, so how do we proceed? Well, first of all, let's find the correct cubes in the manual. The zigzag is here, which by the way is a stylized version of the Aquarius astrological symbol, so you can call it Aquarius. We have the circle with a dot, we have the gravestone, we have the funny car, which is here, a lightning bolt, and the square and a square. So clearly we have 3 symbols down here already, so I'm going to move this one up here, so we have 3 on each side. And then over here, we're going to find this cube, which is the one that has those 3 symbols, and then down here, it is going to be this cube that has all 3 of those symbols. Alright, which one of these contains the symbol that is already on the module? Well, it's the square and a square, so we're going to start with the bottom cube. And we know that the square and a square has the cutout in the bottom right. So I'm tilting my head a little bit to the left now so that I can see the square in such a way that the cutout is in the bottom right. And then we can immediately see that the gravestone is to the right of that, and it is the right side up. So we have a completely normal gravestone here. And then above the square and a square we have the circle with the dot on the left. So I'm going to say this with a left pointing arrow. Now that leaves the 3 remaining faces in adventurous positions which are not connected. So let's see how we get on with this. What we do want is we want the zigzag or the Aquarius symbol to be here. And this is what we need. So how are we going to proceed? Well, first I'm going to write down the cutout for this. So if I put the Aquarius symbol here and then the lightning to the left of that and then the car underneath, in other words, I'm using the front edge to cut this open, then the Aquarius would end up here, but with the I'm gonna mark the flat side as you know, where the flat side is. So I would tell the diffuser, you know, rotate it so that the flat side is on the bottom. And then on the left of that, we would have the lightning bolt, and it would go down and left. And finally, the car would be underneath that. So it would be here, and it would be normal. So let's just use an up arrow for that. Now, obviously, these are both in the wrong place, but we can move both of these together. We can rotate this as a unit about this vertex, the point between the square and the lightning bolt. If we do that, the lightning bolt will go here, and the car will end up here. Alright, so the lightning bolt will be here, and it'll be rotated 90 degrees clockwise, so it'll now point up left. And the car will be here, and because it will also rotate 90 degrees clockwise, it will point to the right. And now we can use the trick that we learned earlier. When you have 4 things in a row, we can just move this to the other side, and that leaves only the lightning bolt in the wrong place, so we just rotate that up again. So it ends up here. Another 90 degrees rotation of this means it points up and to the right. And now we have the shape of the net that we were given, and we just need to communicate this back to the diffuser. So diffuser, please rotate the lightning bolt in such a way that it points up and to the right, and then place that in alpha 1. In Bravo 1, we have the circle with the dot on the left, like this. In Bravo 3, the zigzag with the flat side on the bottom. The gravestone pointing up, or normally oriented, and finally the car with the top facing to the right. And once again, that is a solved module. Now, this tutorial wouldn't be complete if I didn't let you into a little secret with the manual. You may have noticed that I found the cubes that we needed relatively quickly, and this is because the colors and the arrangement of the symbols on the top actually help tremendously with this. The manual doesn't explain how to do this, because you can solve the module entirely without knowing this, just by finding the cube the slow way, but here is how you can find it the fast way. There are essentially 3 different possibilities. Either you have a single one of the symbols on the left, for example, let's say the raspberry, and then 2 of the symbols on the right. And this arrangement here shows you what combinations are possible. So in group 1, you might have the triple arrow and the question mark, or the triple arrow and the paw print, but you will not have the paw print and the question mark, for example. So let's say you have the raspberry, the triple arrow, and the paw print. Now, since you have one of the symbols on the left, we are looking for a red cube. That is what the 1 in red means here. Now, you will notice that the red cubes in the top row all have the raspberry, which is the first symbol. The next 2 both have the second symbol, the mushroom, or whatever you want to call it. These ones have the diamond on a stand, and these have the triple dots. So that's how to find the row, and then of course these here are the cubes on the left, and this combination of 2 symbols is the group of red on the right. Secondly, if you have 2 of the symbols on the left side, so let's say for example you have the raspberry and the diamond on a stand, and then a single one of these 2, let's say the paw print, since you now have 2 of the symbol on the left, you are now looking for a green cube, which is what this 2 in green means. Now, among the green cubes, the ones on the left side of this arrangement all have the triple arrow, which is the left of these 2 symbols, and the ones on the right side all have the paw print. So you can narrow this down to 5 cubes. Now, furthermore, the first symbol in this group, in this case the raspberry, is always on these 3 and these 3. So you can narrow it down to 3 cubes, because if you don't have the raspberry, then it'll be one of the other 3. So in this case, because we have the paw print, we want to look on the right, and it's going to be one of those 3. We have the mushroom, so it can't be this one. And it turns out that we don't have the 3 dots either, so it's not this one. So that's how to find that. Now finally, if you have 3 of the symbols on the left, of course, you may have guessed, we are looking for a blue cube. At this point, check out which of these 4 symbols is the one you don't have. In this case, it's the 4th one you don't have, so the 4th cube is the right one. If, for example, you had the 1st, 3rd, and 4th, you'd be missing the 2nd, so the 2nd blue cube is the right one. Now, just to show to you that this works, in any rule seat, here is a different rule seat of the same manual. And I'm going to scroll down to group 2 just to prove to you that it works in both groups. Let's say we have a single symbol on the left and a pair of symbols on the right. We're looking for, this is the first one, so it's in the first row, and it's the left of the two groups, so it's actually the one on the left. So this is the correct cube. If we have two of the symbols on the left, let's say the Q and the t-shirt, and one of these, then we're looking for a green cube, and it's going to be on the left side because this is the left of the two symbols. And because the Q is involved, it's going to be one of these three. And here you can easily tell that the t-shirt is on the middle one. And finally, if we have three of these symbols, let's say these three, then the one that is missing is the first one, the Q, so that is the right answer. This is how you can easily find the cubes using the colors and the arrangement of the symbols. That's it for this tutorial. Thank you for watching. I hope that I have explained this module adequately to you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions, drop me a line on Discord or comment on the YouTube comment section. And until next time, I hope to see you again, and don't explode.